Before we get started, we wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com. Now on to our show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Cat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Cat Shamapande. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Get Surety. Got with me today my co-host Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP. Hey Mark.
Hey Cat. Glad to be back.
It's always good to have you on with me.
We're going to have an important conversation today.
We are. And we're going to have some fun with it, I think, too.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to be talking about women in surety and what it's like to be a woman in the surety industry. And to do that, we've got three amazing women from Liberty Mutual Surety to talk with us today. Renee Llewellyn, Senior Vice President of Surety Plus. Hey, Renee. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
We also have with us Patty Catanese, Northeast Regional Vice President, Surety Field Operations. Hey, how's it going, Patty?
Great, thank you.
Thanks for being on. We also have Cissie Scoggin-Saslaw, Southeast Regional Vice President, Surety Field Operations. Thanks for being on.
Glad to be here.
So good to have you. So I'm excited about diving into this topic, but before we do, Renee, can you just tell us a little bit about Liberty Mutual Surety?
Would love to. And as you know, Liberty Mutual Surety is the diamond sponsor here at NASBP, and we are worldwide, and we write in nearly 20 countries and over 60 countries we can actually write bonds in. We write all products from the smallest transactional bonds to international bonds all over the world. And what we're really excited about are the value added services that we have and that our producers are really excited about, such as our construction consulting services, our marketing services, peer benchmarking, and then in-house claims services, which we know our producers find really valuable and drive where oftentimes they'll place business with us. So we're excited about that, and we're excited to talk about our topic today.
And we're excited to have not only the diamond sponsor, but the sponsor of this second quarter of 2023 for our podcast, Let's Get Surety. So thanks for being on with us. So to kick us off, can you tell us, Cissie, how'd you get into surety?
Well, I thought about it for a while and said, surety, don't know what that is. So I had two job offers.
I don't think you're alone.
I had two job offers. One from Liberty Mutual Insurance as a claims adjuster for $16,000. I just aged myself a lot. And one from USF&G as a Fidelity Surety trainee for $16,500. And for $500, I am where I am today.
That's good. That's $500 can make a big difference when you're just getting out of college.
In 1985, it made a hell of a difference.
That's terrific. Well, I know all of you have been in the surety industry for a while now. What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced starting out in this industry?
So I think the biggest challenge really for anyone that's a woman is that you're a woman. And that is even more specific to the contract surety side than it is the commercial surety side.
Yeah.
But back when I got in the business, same time as Cissie, it was a challenge within surety broadly.
Okay.
But on the contract side, it's hard to be young in front of a contractor. It's even harder to be a young woman, right? They're not really looking to take advice on how to run their business and what jobs they can and cannot bid from some young woman. So being able to fit in was a challenge. And I get it. I get why so many women would leave the business, because smart young women don't necessarily have to be spoken to or treated the way that women were treated in this industry when I got into it. And that continues to be a challenge for women today, but we got work still to do, but we've come such a long way.
Yeah.
And really a big part of my goal before I exit to retirement is to be able to see that young women today don't have to go through the same types of challenges that I had to.
And what a
when
great
I
legacy
started.
that would be, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm changing everything, all by myself. Entire group now of women,
Yeah.
but just any small change really just warms my heart.
Yeah.
And would you say that that kind of climate was both in the surety structure and in the client structure that you faced at that time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say that the insurance side of it and the surety side of it, we're the ones that are making more strides than I would say the client side. The client side of our business still is behind.
So obviously you've had a successful surety career. And so what was it that allowed you to persevere in that kind of environment?
Stubbornness, right? I think our speaker at this conference today was talking about that drive.
Yeah.
Right. And instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else and do something else easier, I was stubborn and I was like, I am going to make these contractors look at me and see that I am just as good, if not better, than some of the male underwriters. If it's the last thing I do, I am going to win them over.
And the good news is when you do win them over, they remember you because you're not the male person in the room
right.
and you're not the one in the blue shirt and the tan pants. You're the one that stands out. So when you make an impression and it's a great impression, they're going to remember you no matter where they see you, whether it's here or their next meeting. And that becomes the lasting memory for them. And then it grows from there.
Right.
I think the other part of it too is that you have women asked questions in different ways. So many people say, Cissie, you're like the Oprah of surety because the way you ask questions. Well, I picked up one account and he'll say to people, even to this day, he said, I knew Cissie, but when she came in to talk to me about picking up my account, she didn't ask me about my business. She asked me about my family. She said, I said, how are your children? How's your wife? And he said, that made an impression on me because it was more about who I was as a person than so much the business piece.
Yeah.
And so and that client is still a client today. So I think women approach it in a very different way. And I think we always knew that and embraced that and never let that go. So I don't think that I'm going to contradict myself in a little bit, but I don't think I ever tried to be different.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be myself. But like Patty said, and Renee said, you had to work much harder than a man. And you still do, and that's okay.
Right. So to build that trust, which is difficult for anybody, but doubly difficult for you.
Well, hold on for 1 second.
Yeah.
When we were both, when Patty and I started in this business and Renee came somewhat after us, we didn't have role models.
Okay.
So we didn't have people to say in our offices, oh, she did it. I can do it. We didn't have that. I had one agent that was a female and very successful, and she was my mentor. But we didn't have that support system. So you were on your own, and there were very few women even in our organizations. Not even on the insurance side, but anywhere in your office to look up to.
Well, and that's where that perseverance that Patty was talking about really comes in, right? Just persevering and going through without the role models there.
Right.
So that's one of the big changes I'm sure you've seen over the course of your career is now there are role models in place. You are those role models.
And that is, I personally feel like that's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And I use it to help other people in ways that I never thought I would. Even 10 years ago, I didn't think I would be really feeling that accountability. And now I do. And it is probably the thing that gives me the greatest satisfaction now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you give back, you get more in return.
For sure. Hands down.
Sure.
Yeah.
So are you finding in your client base now the composition that there are more women engineers? No, it's the same as what you originally faced?
Well, no, we are deliberately bringing in women to this industry. And you can see other industries are doing the same.
Yeah.
Right. So when we have our college hire programs, for
Client
example,
side, though. The client
Yeah.
side, I don't know if the client side has changed dramatically.
Okay.
If you have a younger owner, and younger, I mean, like might be a generational owner, but younger owner
Yeah.
who's gone to college and looks at women in a very different way, then they bring more women on. If you've got somebody like our parents' age, maybe a little bit different. I see hope that the construction space is changing. It's obviously very different in the commercial space because risk managers tend to be women.
That's
Right.
true.
So it's a very different, dynamic over there. But in contract, and that's where Patty and I really grew up, it's just a very different, it's just a different space. But I do feel like there's been a lot of progress in contractors bringing in people. And if you look at some of the websites, you'll see women in non-HR positions on their org charts.
Right.
They've evolved.
Finally.
Right? Companies are evolving just like we are. So the challenge today to me isn't so much bringing women in, like we can do that. It's retaining them.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's keeping them then as time
Inclusion.
goes.
There has to be inclusion factored in.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they always say, right? So for our company, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, diversity is getting invited to the dance, but inclusion is being asked to dance once you're there, right?
Yeah.
So you can hire in the women, but then you have to help them feel included, help them feel that they're equal.
So are there special considerations about that issue, about making sure women feel like they have the ability to progress and remain and grow in a surety career?
That's a good segue.
So
Yeah.
what we've done at Liberty is we started a women's resource network, which is a support group. So there were 4 of us originally in 2012. Cissie and I were 2 of the 4. And we went to a women's conference in New York City. And we were just astounded at how many other large financial institutes, government entities, who else was there, Cissie? A lot.
Oh, it was the fact that there were government people there was shocking.
Yeah.
And they are all people that had what we now call an ERG, an employee resource group. We
Right.
did not have them at Liberty in 2012.
In all of Liberty, we didn't have them.
all of Liberty.
Yeah.
And we walked away from that like, why does Liberty not have something like this? So, we're Surety. We're a very small piece
Right.
of a very large insurance company.
Yeah.
And we could not take on that project, but instead we decided to take on starting a support group just for women in Surety. And
What the purpose was
That's what we did.
to develop, retain, and attract and promote successful women within our organization. Now, she talked about us going to New York and we drank the Kool-Aid, but getting to that point for
Right.
at least myself was quite the challenge because, again, I've grown up in a male-oriented dominated field.
Right.
So I've got the head of HR calling me going, Sissy, we'd like you to consider going to this conference and being a part of this. And this conversation went over the course of a couple of months. And finally I said, Catherine, I have spent my entire career trying not to be a woman. And now you want me to be a woman? I don't know that I can do that. And so you fast forward and you go to this conference and you drink
Yeah.
the Kool-Aid and you're like, oh my God, now you're empowered.
Yeah.
But then to your point, Renee, about feeling responsible of bringing women up, now you're talking the talk and walking the walk. And
Right.
so what do you do with that? So maybe we're role models, but are we good role models? So you just took a new position.
Yep.
And so talk a little bit about that responsibility.
Yeah, so I'm leading the Surety Plus product segment, which is our small and mid contract business.
Yeah.
And traditionally it's been all men. And now we're hiring more and more women. College hires are women. It was a group that we bought we acquired them. And when we acquired them, there were very few women, just a handful. And so we're trying to increase that. But I am now coming in as the leader of that. And there is a lot of excitement around that.
Yeah.
Both from the Surety Plus product, but then also outside of that product and the rest of Surety and within Liberty and within NASBP and among the producers. And I do take that great responsibility of, here I am leading this. I happen to be a woman. I've been in this industry for a couple of decades and I have to be able to step up and make sure that I'm using that responsibility for a lot of good, and not just obviously women, but hiring people, retaining people, and making sure they feel that inclusion.
I mean, one of the things that when you have a women's resource network and you're trying to empower women, they have to see you take risks. So you're asking them to take risks every
Yes.
day. You're saying, take stretch
risk.
assignments, apply for jobs, that you may or may not think you are qualified for, because men, the theory is a position comes open, men have 20% of the capabilities. They said, it's for me.
Yeah.
A woman feels like she's got to have 80% of the capabilities
Yeah.
before she's willing to say she's doing it.
And that's statistics. I mean,
That's
across
correct.
the board,
That's right.
not just our industry.
Right.
Yeah.
So here you are. So we're asking all these women to do these things. So in 2017, an opportunity came up for me to be an RVP, and Patty was the only female RVP in our company. And I thought, and I was qualified for it. And I thought, if I don't take the opportunity to interview for it, how can I look at these women and say, take a stretch assignment?
Yeah.
Go outside your comfort zone.
Right.
I had to. I mean, I had a response. I mean, I've been on this group for 7 years. I had a responsibility to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I did. And, does it come with fear? Yeah, it comes with fear. And it comes with, questions and all that kind of stuff. But then women look at you and go, okay, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
So-
That's such a great message. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you hear about the demographics of the industry, the war for talent. Doesn't it make just business sense to look for talent
For sure.
wherever it might be, whether it's male or female?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that is just it. Whether it's male, whether it's female, whether it's people who have never been in the industry,
Right.
we have to be thinking diversity of thought and diversity of people, diversity of background all the time.
Yeah.
So of course that includes women. And if we can do that, we'll be better for it as a surety anyway. So I think we've done a really good job of bringing that forward. I think back a couple of decades when I was hands down the only woman at any meeting. And there are now meetings that I go to where the women outnumber the men in the meeting. And it's not about the Women's Resource Network. It's really about something very business focused. And that's actually kind of exciting.
It is.
It's new.
I think you also have to, and we had tremendous support from our president. So Tim was very supportive of us getting involved in this. And I think he, with Catherine, came up with the idea, is where it sort of, I believe, where it started. And so if you've got that kind of support at that level, because we had to make a lot of presentations to Tim and his management team.
Yeah.
Not all of his management team was on board.
Right.
We had a lot of people that were like, really, you need to do this? Well, and Tim was very supportive. And so you knew you had the support of your leadership team and your management team to go out and take some risks and do some things. And it costs money.
Yeah.
This is not something that is cheap.
So, for a company who is thinking about this, now you made the presentations and so forth. What do you think was most persuasive? What advice would you give another company who should take these steps?
So when we went to this conference, it was April of 2012. It took us over a year, really, to put the whole group together. We had to have a mission statement, goals, bylaws,
Charter.
membership. We had to attend, as Cissie was saying, a lot of executive meetings with our 20-minute pitch as to what our next steps were and why. For me personally, a lot of what we have tapped into with men, especially men that are a bit older, is, do you have daughters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sisters. Does your wife work? Maybe not, but don't you want your daughter to be paid the same, have the same opportunity, to be spoken to in a respectful, equal way in their workspace? So that really is what resonates with a lot of the men that we needed to get into the fold and to bring on board.
Right.
But one of the things, when we had our first conference, which was in 2013, so we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year in October, actually.
That's exciting.
And it's very exciting.
Very exciting.
But when we made the pitch for the first meeting, which was in Dallas, the local offices of where these women were coming from had to pick up the cost of the airfare. So it was going to come out of the budgets of their product lines.
Mm-hmm.
And we, at the time, because this was very new, we had to have Tim send an email to all of the managers in our organization who at the still time were mostly men, saying, you will support the women in your organization that are getting invited to this conference, and you will be paying for this airfare. That's it. No stress, no pressure. Now we have so many allies that they're nobody. I mean, they all want to come. They're like, I'll pay my way.
Yeah.
for men who want to come and be a part of
That's
this
true.
organization.
That's
So
amazing.
allyship is key,
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You have to have the sponsors and the allies. We could only get so far on our own.
Right.
And that applies to any minority group that exists that wants to have advancement, wants to be able to develop their people. They have to have allies to do it.
But it sounds like you went through a deliberative process
We did.
and built the case and then put it out there and said,
We did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then probably only a couple years in is when we hit that wall of realizing this can't just be women that come to these meetings. We have to invite our allies.
Right.
They have to be part of this. This isn't going to continue to progress forward unless we have everyone. You're never going to get everyone, but
Right.
unless we get a majority of buy-in from as many people as possible.
Well, you had mentioned that feeling of responsibility to give back. Do you have any stories from, instances where that happened and what you got back from being able to help other women succeed at Liberty?
So one of the things we do is offer a coaching program, and the coaching
okay.
program is to help develop people. And it's supposed to not be a lifelong commitment to coach these people, but more of you get a couple of coaching sessions, whether about its career, resume, interviewing, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I sit on that committee, and I've coached now a handful of women, and I end up retaining them and coach them forever. And I really, really enjoy it. And some of the satisfaction is watching them think about their career and figuring out, what's my brand? What lights me up? What do I want to be doing in the future? And putting those ideas on paper and their resume, and then presenting it to their leader, and then getting that promotion and seeing them flourish in those new roles, for me, is the biggest sense of satisfaction. And, sometimes I'm in a meeting with several people, and I realize I've coached all of those people and watched all of them get promoted. And, I don't even need to be in the room. They're all, highly successful people. And to me, that is the most gratifying. Also means I'm getting probably pretty old, but it's still really gratifying. It's so
Does anybody else have similar examples or other examples where you felt the same way?
Well, just even being at conferences or being asked of things and sharing stories of some of the things that I don't have to get into, but that I had to deal with when I was a young female underwriter, and having young women today say, really? Like that happened to you? I've never experienced anything like that. And it's like, yes, right. Good. That means we're doing something and making progress. I had, in one of my mentor circles, I had this young woman, and there's a specific YouTube video that I love, and it's about a dad and how he came to realization with his daughter. And he does this whole talk. And then he has this father's pledge at the end of it for any father.
Yeah.
And so I had my group watch this video, and we had a conversation, and she sent me a message a month later saying that she asked her father to watch the video, that, her father always, not that her father didn't support her, but a similar situation I had with my father, but it was more important that her brother, succeeds and all this. And her father watched the video, printed out the pledge, signed it, and hung it on the refrigerator, and took a picture and sent it to her. And she wrote to me and said, my father and I had the best conversation about my career that we've ever had because you sent me that video. And it just gave me joy, like pure joy. One person with her relationship with her father just improved because of this.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that story. That's cool.
It's a great story.
Great story.
Yeah.
Do you have a story that you'd like to share?
I'm sort of the same with them. I've mentored a number of women, and when you see them take a risk and apply for a job, you've had somebody too that used to work for me. And when you give them the courage and you help them through an interview, a mock interview, and then they apply for it and they get it.
Yeah.
Then you really feel like you're a lot of satisfaction, your job well done, and watching them progress and succeed. And it's really, Patty was the only female bond manager at Safeco, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And I was the only one at Liberty. So you didn't really understand. I never had even a vision of what it would be like to ever sit at a table with successful women because I didn't have that.
Right.
So to just, like you said, Patty, to just be a part of it and talk about it, I'm getting over what I felt like years ago, and I've tried to be a man all this time. Now I'm being a woman.
Yeah.
And then you realize, I think what women didn't realize, and maybe it was a little bit intimidating for men, is that when you feel empowered, there's great power that comes with being empowered. And so when you go into a meeting, it's okay to be different. You know, you could ask better questions. But you feel like, wow, I bring something different and I need to be proud of it. And how can I use it? I don't mean in a bad way, but how can I use it to get to my end goal, which is whatever it is? But women can do that differently than men. We have a much better way. I shouldn't say better, a much different way of getting to an end. Which is why companies support or really encourage diversity. It's not just having a female or a person of color. It's the thought process. That's what they're looking for. It's the difference of thought and process.
All of our differences make us stronger when we work
a little
together.
correction there. We were the only 2 female surety contract bond managers.
Correct.
There were
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Contract.
we were the only ones
in
during
contract,
the merger
right.
that were on the contract
And,
side.
and what Sissy says, the confidence, it builds that momentum. And you made me think of something that happened early on in my career. I was told you want to make sure you've got, the slacks and the sweater suits or the blouse and the blazer. I was told not to wear skirts and dresses.
Oh, interesting.
And right around 2012, 13, when all of the WRN started, and it did give you more confidence. And I think from that point forward, I wore dresses and skirts and a lot of pink. And, because,
I'm going to wear what I want
I'm going to wear what I want and I'm going to own it. And that to me was actually kind of fun.
We have the whole thing about being your authentic self. At work.
Nice.
That's a big drive at Liberty.
Yeah.
And that's part of all this, right? You can wear pink skirts if you want to.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like there's progress being made, but I'm sure there's a lot more that could be made.
For sure.
So going forward, what do you think we need to be thinking about as a community in that regard? Patty, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to get more allies involved.
Okay.
We have to make men more aware of the struggles that women go through instead of just being blinded by it. So, for an example, if you look at statistics today, right, it is more of a balance of men and women in a workplace now, right? So it's no longer off balance. A lot of big companies, and Liberty is one of them, has close to a 50-50 balance. So for men, it's easy for them to look around and say, we've got a ton of women now. It's all fixed. It's better.
Right.
No. Now look at how many women are of certain grades and above. And that's where you get back down to there are only 30% that are managers. There are only 12% that are in C-suites. So the focus now has to be about developing them and promoting them into higher level jobs. So men don't, and I get it, they don't see that, right? I mean, we in another DEI committee that I'm on, like we did this whole survey, and the difference between men saying, do you feel like things are equal now in the workplace? 90% of men are like, yeah, it's all better. And you've still got like 40-something% of women that are like, yes, it's much better. Where other women are like, no, we still have a long way to go. So it's that type of data and those type of conversations we need to continue to have with men to build them as our allies and to help us continue to make progress.
Right. So,
and they need to look at their organizations and say, okay, I don't have any women in this space. We have a contract home office underwriting group that didn't have any women, now has a female RUO.
Yeah.
And so you look at your whatever organization you're in and say, okay, who am I not identifying?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have a group. And so we have a group that helps identify women that need to be promoted or that are ready for the next job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really key.
Well, it sounds like we've made a lot of progress. We still have places to
Still
go.
work to do.
Yeah.
But we really have.
And we can't
made
be
progress.
complacent
Right.
about it.
But if you could give one piece of advice to a young woman coming into the surety industry today, what would you say to her, Cissie?
Be yourself.
Wear those pink skirts.
Well, I never did that, but I would say be strong, be yourself, and be better than the man.
Well, ask questions, right? And this is for anyone young coming into the industry. But again, just that extra edge for women. We don't want to sound like we don't know or we don't understand or we
But
miss
nobody
something.
knows what surety is when they first come into the
Nobody.
industry, right?
But don't be afraid to speak up and ask questions. That whole there is no stupid question.
Yeah.
You're learning. Everyone young is here to learn and develop. Ask. Ask as many, use your full resources. We assign someone as a manager, someone has a mentor. Everyone in that office, everyone in the organization should be available to help you learn and grow, not just the one person that you're assigned to. Use everyone that you can to improve your knowledge.
That's terrific.
I would say be curious and be asking questions as part of that. People love to talk about what they know. Take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Ask those questions and find those people that are going to advocate for you as you grow in your career. Ask for their advice. Ask them what they think you should be doing as a person. Figure out for yourself, what are the things that light you up? What do you love doing? What are you all about? What's your brand? How do you want to position your career? Be clear about what those things are. And even if they change, that's okay. Just always be thinking about that so you can continue to grow.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank all of you guys for being on with us. Thanks to Liberty for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety and for bringing on this amazing cast of guests. It's been great having you. We'll have to have you back again sometime. I want Oprah back on.
No, you don't.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety again for their generous support in supporting this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com.